This episode is sponsored by independent Swiss luxury watchmaker Ulysse Nardin. Ulysse Nardin has continuously reset the boundaries of watch engineering and design thanks to its long-established technical excellence and its unconventional approach to watchmaking. To find out more, visit ulysse-nardin.com. That's ULYSSE-NARDIN.com. Ulysse Nardin.
You're listening to The Luxury Item, the podcast on the business of luxury and the people and companies that are shaping the future of the luxury industry. Here's your host, Scott Kerr.
Lucid Motors is a luxury electric vehicle manufacturer and one of America's brightest electric car startups today. Lucid began in 2007 under the name Ativa and originally focused on developing battery systems and powertrains for various types of electric vehicles. In 2016, the company officially rebranded itself as Lucid Motors. The company's first state-of-the-art luxury sedan, the Lucid Air, began sales in 2021. It was designed to compete with the Tesla Model S and the Porsche Taycan, as well as other luxury battery EVs made by Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi. Lucid also recently confirmed its Gravity SUV for later this year and a midsize vehicle slated for a late 2026 launch. My guest on the luxury item is Peter Rawlinson, Chief Executive Officer at Lucid Motors. Peter is responsible for all strategic and business aspects of the company. Peter is also the company's Chief Technology Officer, where he is responsible for the creation and delivery of all Lucid products. Peter brings over 30 years of automotive industry experience to bear these roles. Prior to Lucid, he was Vice President of Vehicle Engineering at Tesla and Chief Engineer of the Model S, where he led the engineering of the Model S from a clean sheet to production readiness while building the engineering team. He also held senior positions at Lotus and Jaguar. Welcome to the luxury item, Peter.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. I've been looking forward to speaking with you. So I think a perfect place to start is if you can share with my audience the story of Lucid Motors and, its origins and what your role was in getting this thing off the ground.
Really, yes. Well, we created and launched Lucid Motors in 2016 with Lucid Air. And the vision for the company was very much a sense of mission, not just to create the best electric vehicle imaginable with our in-house technology developed, designed and created in-house, but to really push the envelope of what was possible, to advance the art of the possible. Lucid exists for this sense of mission because we need to advance the technology of EVs in order to address the barriers to widespread adoption. And those barriers are range anxiety and the cost of ownership, of attainment of an EV. And why is this important? Because we have a huge challenge for humankind at the moment with global warming. And the sooner we can get people transition to a sustainable mobility model, the better. And really, Lucid was born out of a recognition that the technology in EVs needs to advance a whole lot more. And we're now at a situation where we really are world leaders and we're truly at the forefront of that technology 8 years on.
So when you started the company, you handpicked a team that was packed with people who pretty much wrote the book on batteries, battery management, and electric powertrain technology with their early pioneering work. How did that work to your advantage in making the Air a reality?
Well, what I did was I just handpicked a team of brilliant engineers. And we didn't actually draw upon previous battery knowledge or experience at all. What we did was we went to first principles, the fundamentals, and reimagined how battery technology could advance. And we created our own battery technology from scratch. And one of the first steps in that was that we won the tender to supply all the cars in the World Championship Electric Motorsport Series, to supply all those cars with a standard battery pack. Every team in that series, really storied brands, were using our batteries, they're buying our batteries, and that transformed the sport. Before that, the cars didn't have the battery energy to go a full race distance. So we had this ridiculous spectacle where drivers would have to stop halfway and switch cars, because it was easier to switch a car than
Right.
switch batteries. And so the whole raison d'etre of that sport was to demonstrate the capability of battery electric. Up till the time we produced our pack, which transformed the sport, it did the absolute polar opposite. So it was with that race heritage that we learned so much about battery management systems and algorithms and battery health monitoring and really optimizing battery packs. And we embodied all of that expertise and that learning that we accrued through many seasons of motorsport into our Lucid Air, and we will actually go into our Gravity SUV. But also, when I was building the company, I felt that there was a really sort of a missing link in people's understanding of electrification. There was a widespread kind of given that electric motors were so more efficient than their gasoline counterparts, they couldn't be improved much.
Right.
Now, electric motors are pretty efficient if you put them in an air conduct and run them at a set speed and load. But a car isn't like that. It doesn't run at a set speed and load. So we really set about doing the unthinkable. That was to really take a very hard and deeply analytical scientific look. Could we reinvent and redesign the electric motor from scratch? And I mean, I tell you, this was laughed at back in 2016. Nobody thought it was possible. There was no reason to do it. But the result is that we've got the most advanced electric motors and drive units and inverter systems in the world today. And these systems that we've developed in-house, by completely reinventing them, have led to the only car on the market today with over 500 miles range. Today, we've got over 100 miles more range than the nearest competitor. And we do that not with an unduly large battery pack, but we do it through efficiency so that we can achieve that range through technology, not just adding extra batteries. And this is critical.
And as we mentioned before, Lucid began its entry into the EV segment with its flagship Air sedan, which arrived as a 2022 model. First products for anything, when they're launched from startups, generally define what their brand is. So how does the Air uniquely define the Lucid Motors brand?
Indeed, it was absolutely important that we start with a real landmark product, which really defined the brand. A technological tour de force, and yet beautifully exquisitely crafted. So the whole vision was to fuse the aspirational nature of California, the iconology, the grandeur of the landscape, the heart of California, with the mind of Silicon Valley technology. So this was the fusion of the aspirational nature of the state with the technology, the world-leading technology that it's renowned for in heart and mind. And we embodied the car with really cutting-edge tech, unprecedented range, incredible performance. We launched with over 1,000 horsepower. It was over 1,100 horsepower, actually, 1111 horsepower. And yet we had a beautifully crafted interior, true luxury. I mean, for example, at the leather we use, the supplier is the same grade of Napa leather that's supplied to Bentleys. But we wanted to do this in a quintessentially understated way. We went for quiet luxury, understated luxury, influenced actually by the state of California. Mid-century modern design was a key inspiration for this design language. So this was the idea, to fuse technology with exquisite, crafted, quiet luxury.
So what personally excited you about Lucid Air and its potential?
Well, I think we have the most advanced car in the world. We launched with the Dream Edition in the fall of 2021. And a little over 2.5 years now from that, we have a range of products, starting with the Air Pure, at just $69,900, which really is an outstanding car in its own right. And it embodies so many of the features, the characteristics, and the core DNA of the brand. And that entry-level model has a range of 419 miles. It's unsurpassed as a driving experience. And that's the other thing. I mean, just as our cars are computers on wheels, I didn't want that aspect, that facet, to overwhelm another important characteristic for me. I still love driving, the thrill, the romance of the open road. Our cars had to be real driving machines. And that was it's absolutely central to our DNA that they're not antiseptic computers on wheels. They're that as well. They're connected cars with over-the-air capability. They run on an Ethernet ring super data highway. And we introduced that as a landmark innovation back in 2021. Others have taken years to copy that. Most of all, I wanted the cars to be absolute delights to drive. My background is Jaguar and Lotus, and I wanted to embody some of the dynamics, some of the ride quality of Jaguar, and some of the driving dynamics of Lotus into our Lucids. And if you look at the Sapphire, which is our highest performance model, it has been described independently by journalists as literally the best handling car in the world.
What went into the design thinking of it that you thought about, especially when it came to the consumer?
Yes, I think there's so many consumers who are really committed to an EV, an environmentally sustainable form of transport, but just longed for the fit and finish and the creature comforts and just the design, the warmth and love and cosseting nature of a well-designed interior, which isn't overtly mechanistic and unduly minimalist. And so we have a glass cockpit, a 5G 34-inch compound curved screen on top. It's in a floating position on top of the IP. We have a deeper dive access to the functionality with a touch screen, which you can call a pilot panel between the driver and the passenger. But we also introduced a fusion of touch controls from touchscreen with traditional switchgear. And this is very important to me because I think the tactile quality and nature of easy touch traditional switches has a value which is still relevant today in this computer age. So we went for a fusion of both easy touch, immediate access for controls which are used very frequently, like washers and wipers and temperature controls and fan blowers and volume controls. And of course, you can go in a more immersive way beyond that, multi-layered with touch. But that was central to our philosophy. The other thing we did, which was completely unparalleled, was we created a car which was bigger on the inside, yet smaller on the outside. And we could embody and endow the car with the incredible legroom, which is normally associated with a car much bigger on the outside. And why was that important? Because I wanted an agile, sporting driving experience. And you're not going to get that with an unduly large car. You needed that compactness and agility to create a great sports Grand Tourer. But I wanted to have the interior creature comfort of a true limousine. And how we achieved that is unique. Up to the point of Lucid Air, it was widely recognized that electric motors and drive units were significantly smaller than their gasoline counterparts. And this was considered an advantage of an electric car. But what no one had really done was say, how far can we take this miniaturization? That's what we did at Lucid. We went on an absolute mission to further miniaturize the driver units when everyone else said, oh, look, they're much smaller than a V6 or a V8 or a V12 gas engine, we know that, to hell with that. How far can we take this thing? And we miniaturized and miniaturized and miniaturized, and we've got the most miniaturized, we've got the most power dense drive units in the world. And what this meant was there was more room for people's leg room and interior comfort in a car, which you'd normally have to be much bigger with traditional technology. And that's what just blew everyone else out of the water, because the Lucid Air's got more interior space, more legroom than a long wheelbase S-Class Mercedes. But it's actually shorter on the outside than a Tesla Model S.
And you started putting Lucid Air sedans into driveways in late 2021. The initial models ranged from the $140,500 Lucid Air Grand Touring to the top of the line $170,500 Lucid Air Dream Edition. And those prices were lowered after that, all with impressive performance and battery tech and engine power. So right out of the gate, were you looking to skip past Tesla and go right after the German luxury sedans?
I think we were. We were targeting Mercedes customers who yearned for those sort of attributes. But again, it's kind of a unique fusion, because what we were offering was kind of like an ultimate driving machine type driving experience, more of a Porsche type driving experience, more Mercedes interior space, maybe an Audi design sensibility, all fused into one. And really to leapfrog Tesla's technology, we certainly took a step past Tesla. And this is very interesting, because when I was at Tesla, I joined Tesla in February 2009, and I was there as chief engineer of Model S through till January 2012. Tesla was at the cutting edge of this technology. But it's clearly not now. It's clearly that mantle has passed to Lucid, and certainly in recent years we've really pulled ahead, and we are the tech leader. So I think it's probably no longer valid just to compare us with the Germans or anyone. We're kind of unique, the best technology in the world, all developed in-house, genuinely. I think that some of the coolest design language, really Californian inspired, the absolute antithesis of ostentatious, quiet luxury. If you've got it, you understand, you know. And, just an understated car which has got incredible range, incredible performance, a wonderful car to drive, and it's incredibly comfortable and got great ride quality as well. And I tell you, there is nothing else like it on the world, out there in the market.
The Air lineup soon expanded to relatively affordable versions, including the entry-level Lucid Air Pure, which now goes for under $70,000. Yes. What was the trickle-down effect from the six-figure models to the Pure that didn't make customers feel like they were just settling?
Well, I think there's so many attributes in the Pure which are embodied, which are part of the more expensive models. It's very interesting, actually. When I speak to journalists, I ask them to evaluate a Pure at $69,900 back to back with a Sapphire, which is the fastest car in the world, that's in serious volume production. That's the top of our range at 249. Really, it's a very interesting comparison, because really Pure has got so many of the compelling attributes of even the Sapphire. It hasn't got the raw performance, but it's got the delightful steering response, which so many of our models share.
I want to talk a little bit about the EV market. Right now, EV sales growth is slowing at a time when rapid expansion is needed to reach climate goals. We're seeing Ford, General Motors, and other major automakers are pulling back on their EV ambitions, putting more of their money behind hybrid vehicles, cutting back on production, and delaying introduction of some EV models. You and your fellow EV startups have been encountering a number of challenges too. So with the pace of EV sales slowing and buyers balking at higher prices of EVs, it seems the industry has entered this new phase with questions over whether the switch to cleaner electric is just a temporary speed bump or more of a troublesome stall. What are your thoughts on the EV marketplace right now, and what scenario are you hoping plays out that right sets the customer profile from early adopters to more of these mainstream buyers?
Well, I think there's a reason. I think too many people have been experiencing third-rate EVs. If your experience is with an EV that sucks, you're not going to think very favorably about EVs. We need more people to realize just how amazing the Lucid Air is, because it's so much better than anything else out there. This is the fact. And if you look at the sales, we're not experiencing a turndown. We're out in Q1, we're outselling Porsche Taycan in the US. We're outselling Mercedes EQS. We're outselling BMW i7. We're outselling Audi e-tron. Our sales were up 40% quarter one on quarter one. They were up 37% year on year in 2023. We're seeing continued growth as the word spreads that you can get access to the best EV on the planet, and it's called the Lucid. I think that who would believe that we're not going to move to electric cars on a very widespread level 10 years from now? I think it is inevitable. We have to. This transition simply has to take place. What we're seeing is a load of EVs out there that frankly suck. That's the problem. And people's experiences with them are so underwhelming. And if you look at, again, what Lucid was formed to do, to address the key barriers to widespread adoption. And you mentioned cost. So how does Lucid address cost? We do it through technology. Well, how? If you look at the major cost of making an EV, it is the cost of the battery pack. There is no gasoline car equivalent. For a high-end EV, that pack can constitute about 37% of the total value that you put in the car, the bill of materials. And in fact, it's over 40% for a more affordable EV. So why is that? And there was almost this universally recognized falsehood that range is directly proportional to battery size. And Lucid's challenged that. We said, well, if we use those electrons in that battery more effectively, we wouldn't need so much battery to go a certain distance. So what we did, we reinvented the electric motor. We went for the world's highest voltage to gain efficiency, 924 volts. No one else is there. For reference, most Teslas are in the 400s of volts. The old-fashioned old voltage, they're stuck in there. We've taken the lead here. We've got the fastest charging car, we've got the longest range, and we're doing that through the highest efficiency. And right now, our Pure, Lucid Air Pure, does 4.74 miles for every kilowatt hour of battery energy. No one else is even close to that. And this very week in New York, I had the pleasure of announcing a landmark in the development and the evolution of the electric car, that Lucid has been awarded by the EPA 5.0 miles per kilowatt hour for one of its cars, which I will be announcing very, very soon and giving more details of. This is critical. This means that any journey you take from A to B, whether it's from your home to the shops, to any commute on your vacation, you will use less electricity on that A to B in a Lucid Air than any other car in the market. This is quite shocking because this is quite a decent sized luxury car. And yet it is the most lean use of electricity. And because of that, we need less battery pack to hold that electricity, which means less nickel, less cobalt, less lithium mined, and less weight to lug around in the form of that big, heavy battery pack. Lucid's packs got lighter because there's less requirement for the size of battery pack. And because that battery pack is the fundamental cost in making an EV, Lucid's technology reduces the cost of making that EV by several $1,000s compared with the competition. This is going to shake up the industry. This is the way to make EVs affordable, going further with less batteries, and no one else is really pursuing it. Everyone else is so far behind us.
At the end of last year, you announced the next electric vehicle, the three-row Gravity SUV. It's your first foray into the lucrative and intensely competitive SUV market. The Gravity has 440 miles of range, can accelerate 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 3.5 seconds. It will have a base price, from what I understand, about $80,000, and is expected to go into production late this year. The landscape looks remarkably different than it did 3 years ago when you first teased the possibility of an electric SUV. The luxury EV market in particular is intensely competitive and overly saturated at this time, with offerings from Audi, Mercedes, Cadillac, and BMW. First, can you talk about the vehicle itself? What's unique about the Gravity in terms of range estimates, design, performance, cargo capacity, etc.?
So, Gravity, so you're absolutely right, Scott. It's coming out, it's scheduled for start of production late this year. 7 seats, 3 rows, targeting 440 miles range. This car will have the driving dynamics and performance that exceed a Lamborghini Urus. It will have the nobility and stature of a Range Rover. It's got the interior space, legroom, that exceeds that of an Escalade, and yet it's only 2 inches longer on the outside than a Lucid Air, which in turn is shorter than a Tesla Model S. So this car has got a combination of attributes, of disparate attributes, hitherto unachieved, unheard of. And it combines all this with a pole flat seating configuration, which endows it with extraordinary practicality for lifestyle. It can hold mountain bikes, surfboards. The list is endless. But when I look at the seating capability, the 3-row seats, I mean, we're talking about, we did a demonstration with colleagues of mine, 6'7" in the front row, 6'6" in the second row, 6'4" in the third row. And actually, we fitted even taller people in the third row. There isn't a vehicle like this out there. I hear the narrative that it's intensely competitive. Yes, there are many EV SUVs out there, but none of them are very good. I'm sorry, they're not. None of them have got anything like the dynamic performance of Gravity. None of them have got anything like the range. None of them have got anything like the practicality or the interior space and the compactness and versatility that gives. And on top of that, we've got a special unique feature. We've got an optional cushion seat for the front, so you can drive up to your favorite beauty spots and watch the sun going down from the front of your Gravity.
Who are you targeting with the Gravity?
We're targeting a wide swathe of the American consumer. When we launched Lucid Air, so many people said, that's fantastic, amazing machine, how wonderful it is. When I show people the Gravity, their reaction is, when can I buy it? It's quite different. It's really quite amazing. So I think this is the car that America yearns for. A really decent, totally practical, beautifully crafted SUV that has got really great credentials in terms of environmentalism. And this is what I want to bring on to, because there is a perception that all EVs are equal. And let me tell you, they're not. They're not all equal in terms of their environmental credentials. Some of them are the equivalent of gas guzzling EVs. They're electron guzzlers. They use far too many electrons and far too much electricity to go places. And because of this, their manufacturers have to endow them with massive battery packs to achieve the range. And this is the very antithesis of sustainability. And I think this needs to be more widely appreciated.
Recently, Lucid reported its first quarter revenue numbers and it topped Wall Street's expectations. You also delivered more vehicles than the market expected, which is positive news. The slight price cuts on the Air, I'm sure, helped those numbers. Looking ahead, Lucid will need sales of its Air luxury sedan to pick up and for the Gravity SUV to be a hit when shipments begin by the end of this year. Are you still feeling good about producing 9,000 cars this year, which is about 7% more than last year?
Look, what we're seeing, and we showed in Q1 that we had a record quarter. The sales were up at 40%, quarter one on quarter one. This is all about scale. We need scale, and we've got a 4-step plan to achieve scale. Our economics are all based on scale. First, we need to sell more Lucid Airs, and I'm very pleased with the way things are going, certainly through Q1. Sell more Airs this year, get to 6 times the addressable market with Gravity, scheduled for start of production late this year. Then, 2 years on from that, late 26, we get our mid-size car into production. That's our $48,000 to $50,000 car. That's scheduled for start of production late 26. That would mean we'll have a 30 times addressable TAM. And step 4, do some more licensing deals, like the supply deal that we did with Aston Martin to supply them with Sapphire technology. That was announced last year, $450 million at least value to that supply contract. Those are the 4 steps to get us scale. And our economics are dominated by the long-term investments in capital equipment in order to achieve that scale. We recently put in 3 million additional square feet into a factory in Arizona in readiness for the launch of Gravity. Our Gravity body shop has got 247 robots. It's a highly automated assembly line. We've brought our stamping line in. We have a servo tandem press line there, which is state of the art to bring us aluminum stampings in-house. That will save us OPEX. It will actually save us on the bill of materials of making the car. We're assiduously looking to reduce our costs in terms of man hours per car and labor, warranty through quality, inventory, which accounts for an impairment cost in our financials. But one of the big things we have is we have a big factory we will have at the end of this year capable of 90,000 units per annum. And we need to be able to amortize the depreciation on that plant on a higher number of cars. And this is all about selling more Airs and getting Gravity out there. And I'm hugely confident that we're going to achieve it.
Are you going to invest in marketing? Because if you want to scale, seems to me that you're going to have to figure out a way to generate consistent demand for the Air and obviously grab people's attention and demand for the Gravity SUV. So how do you plan on doing that?
Yes, well, we've re-energized our marketing endeavors. We brought in Andrea Soriani as Vice President of Marketing, and we've taken a much more data-driven approach to our marketing. And the results are beginning to show. And this takes time. And we're also getting from the grassroots, because remember that our best salespeople and best advocates are those who already own the Lucid Air. I was talking to a lady at an event just last week, and she was telling me that she bought an Air and the rest of her family had never heard of Lucid, and now there are 3 Lucid Air family because her in-laws and her siblings were blown away with the performance of her Air, and they just had to get one. So I think that the message is spreading, the word is growing, and the momentum is there. It's not going to happen overnight.
On the first quarter earnings call, you also announced a mid-size vehicle with a price of around $48,000, and that's arriving late 2026. It sounds like you're going after the Tesla Model 3 and the Model Y crowd. Are you looking at this lower price mid-size platform to be key to accelerating growth and a faster path to profitability?
Totally. That's what it's all about. That gives us true scale as an operation. And you're absolutely right. That is going directly at Tesla Model 3 and Model Y. The engineering and design teams are working away at that as we speak. It's actually coming along very nicely. We've been working on it for over a year. And this is a platform which will spawn different models from that platform. So we can have different types of car off this platform. This is Lucid's world platform. We're going for a Tesla Model 3, Model Y price point. Model Y was the best-selling car in the world last year, over 1 million units sold. I can't tell you how much better and how much cooler our midsize is compared with the Model Y. And we've got this killer advantage that our technology means that we can be competitive on range, but with a proportionately smaller battery pack than the competition, including Tesla. And the battery pack is the big ticket item in terms of the price of making a car, particularly at that price point. This gives us a profitability, a gross margin advantage over the rest of the field. And that's really what makes Lucid such a compelling financial thesis.
Last month, Tesla pulled back from its EV charging network in the U.S. And last year, Lucid reached a deal, an agreement with them that will give its EV owners access to Tesla's network of superchargers. How does this recent announcement impact your business and to a greater extent, the entire U.S. market?
Well, I mean, I think it's something that we're watching closely. I think it's another indicator, worrisome indicator of just how distracted Tesla has become.
Right.
So we're adopting NACS. Remember, we already have the fastest charging car in the world. Our cars charge faster than Tesla. Our cars accept the 1,000-volt charging. The NACS network is not at the 1,000 volts; it's in the 400s. So really, this is the old-fashioned voltage that we have with NACS. However, it is worth our while joining that because of the reliability and the sheer number of available stations for NACS. So we took the decision that this best serves our customers in the overall picture.
Well, speaking of Tesla, right now it's the global EV market leader and it's Elon Musk's golden child. But Tesla is contending with major challenges too: sales stalling, top executives fleeing, stock price down. Cybertruck is riddled with quality problems. And Musk's social media company X, where his decisions and posts have sparked controversy, have perhaps dented the Tesla brand. Tesla essentially sucks the media oxygen out of the EV market. Do you look at this very public Tesla noise having a negative effect on the perception of EVs, or do you see it as a strategic opportunity to shine a spotlight on the Lucid brand?
Well, it's very worrisome, isn't it? It's a worrisome trend. It's clearly distracted. That is widely recognised now. And when I was at Tesla, there was a real sense of mission, and a real sense of being at the cutting edge of innovation. All that has changed. If you just let me give you one recent example. It was Lucid who introduced a super advanced nodal superhighway for data, an Ethernet ring in our car, which we brought into production in 2021. Tesla followed with Cybertruck over 2 years later. So again, it's Lucid innovating, then Tesla following. This is what's happening now. So look, somebody has to really take leadership here because the planet is at stake. I still feel that sense of mission. I've got this laser focus. Lucid's got laser focus. Someone has to take the leadership for all mankind, because without advancing this technology, we'll be stuck with EVs that still require too large batteries and using too many of the minerals of the earth, and are heavy and too costly. We need to get the cost down of EVs, and the way to do that is with smaller batteries. And the way to achieve that is with more advanced software and hardware and drivetrain systems that we are developing and leading the world in. And we're quite happy to take that mantle. And I think it's already passed to us. I think we're about 4 years ahead of where Tesla is today. And I think the gap is growing. The very fact we're able to announce the 5 miles per kilowatt hour is a consequence of years and years of slog on our part with Lucid's R&D team to get there. And I think that the consequence for the planet is yet to be truly recognized.
Lucid has been manufacturing the Lucid Air at its Arizona facility for 3 years, with a recent expansion of that assembly plant to produce its forthcoming Gravity SUV. And you opened your first ever car manufacturing facility in Saudi Arabia last year to fill the Saudi kingdom's order for the Lucid Air models. Will the Saudi produced models eventually be sold to outside markets too?
Yes, yes, absolutely. We see the Saudi production um, um, being reaching markets in the Middle East, in Asia, and Europe. But we also envisage that with our mid-size platform, that's a world platform, so that's designed for manufacturing multiple locations. So after we launch the production in our Saudi plant with that, the plan is to produce a model of that in our Arizona facility, and that will serve the US market.
EVs are now the subject of intense commercial competition for the United States and China, the world's two largest economies. Chinese companies such as BYD, that began as a battery manufacturer, much like Lucid, are creating EVs that are cheaper and more accessible to the masses. And despite lower price tags, Chinese EVs have powerful batteries and advanced technology. Yes, these companies have been aided by more than a decade of strong support from Beijing in the form of subsidies and tax breaks. Chinese automakers are looking for new markets for their lower price inventory, including eventually the US. Do you see Chinese EV makers as a real threat to your business in the US if they were ever to enter the market here?
Well, I believe I really believe, first of all, in a free market economy. But I think we do need to recognise that there isn't a level playing field in what could be a free market economy, because the degree of government support and incentivization that the Chinese automakers receive is nothing like what we see here in the West.
Right.
And then, of course, you've got the labor rates in China, which are very difficult to compete with. However, against that, I believe that we have a technological advantage over the Chinese. I think that, to me, it spurs us on to, at Lucid, to run even faster to grow that gap. Because although there's a lot said of the Chinese technology, I don't see it in their core drive units. Frankly, I think they're years behind Tesla even. I think what I've seen is the vehicle engineering in China improving leaps and bounds over the last few years. Things like fit and finish, quality of materials, wind noise, even some of the driving dynamics and braking, things like that. Just the way the doors shut, and the ergonomics, massive improvement. I think that they've taken leadership in a particular type of battery technology, LFP. That's the blade type technology that they've developed, and I think they're leaders in that. But I still think that in the core powertrain technology, they're some way behind. But they shouldn't be underestimated, and I think that they will come quite strongly over the next few years. So, to me, it's about brand. It's about brand value. Mm-hmm. It's about subtleties such as vehicle dynamics and driving appeal. And it's about our core powertrain technologies, which truly will differentiate Lucid and set us apart for many years to come. And our cost advantage, of course, is the battery size. The Chinese cost advantage is labor rate.
And conversely, do you have an entry strategy into the Chinese market?
We'd love to be there. We're watching the space. I think we need to grow our capabilities in our current markets a bit stronger first. We're already in 8 countries. We're in the US, we're in Canada, Germany, Norway, the Netherlands and Switzerland, and of course we're in Saudi Arabia, and now we're in the UAE as well. So I think we should strengthen our foothold and our volumes in those markets before biting off something which would be pretty big, but it's the big prize.
So what do you think the biggest obstacle facing Lucid Motors? Is it the slowing EV growth, interest rates, the global state of affairs, the political policy environment?
I think that we're not seeing the slowing sales. We're seeing increasing sales. We're seeing increasing awareness. We're seeing growing appreciation that we got something really special. We're outselling Porsche with the Taycan in the US. We're outselling the Mercedes EQS in the US. We're on a growth trajectory. I'm hugely optimistic. I'm totally committed, and the team is totally committed to our future. I've never sold a single share in the company. I'm all in for good reason, other than for tax purposes, I should say, with shares. But that was inevitable. I am hugely optimistic. I think we've got the best cars in the world. We've got the best technology. The gap is growing. We've got licensing opportunities. We've got the best SUV on the planet coming, and there is nothing even close to that. I think the big issue that we have to really work on is just to grow more awareness. There are still many Americans who've never heard of us, let alone appreciate just how awesome our products are. And that's got to change.
So my final question, Peter, which I ask all my guests, is the luxury item question. So if you were stranded on a deserted island and you could only have one single luxury item with you, what would that luxury item be? It can't be any form of air or water transportation, or if you happen to have amphibious gravity, you can't do that either, or anything that requires mobile service that you can call somebody to get you off that island. What would that one single luxury item you would like to have on this deserted island? It's just you, sand, palm trees, and lots of ocean. What's that one luxury item?
I think I'd choose my beat-up Martin acoustic guitar.
Ooh, a man after my own heart.
I think I'd take a 00028. Can I add some strings to that, because I forget to do a few things.
We'll get you some strings. Peter Rawlinson, CEO and CTO of Lucid Motors. Thank you so much for joining me on the luxury item.
Thanks so much.
That's it for this episode of the Luxury Item Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this useful and entertaining, I would be really grateful if you can share it with a friend or colleague. I would love it if you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps other listeners find us. The Luxury Item Podcast is a production of Silvertone Consulting. I'm your host, Scott Kerr. Until next time.